now. Pretty sure that we're live. Welcome to the Knights of Automation Mastermind for July 2025. This is the first one that we do. We do it on the second and the fourth Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Pacific. And today we're going to do something really cool. We're going to do something really fun. We're going to talk about making unique dynamic QR codes for people. So imagine this. Here's the scenario, Justin. And by the way, everybody give Justin mad love and mad thumbs up. Last week was his first week full-time, and he's been attending all the calls and shadowing and kicking butt. And I just learned he actually has a whole degree in like advanced entrepreneurial international business, and I didn't know that. So that's my bad for not knowing that. But okay.
Also proof I don't talk about myself that much.
That's okay too. Gotta stay silent and chill. So okay,
Personal.
Here's what we're gonna talk about today. I want you to imagine you register for an event, or you buy a ticket for an event, and then you get a QR code in your email. QR code. Whoop, they scan it at the desk and they check you in. We're going to talk today about having a unique QR code that points to a check-in form in your CRM. And of course, we're going to do it through the example of Keap. So what I'm going to do is, let me go ahead and share my screen briefly for a moment. And then there you go. Okay, so here's a QR code. What I want you to understand is that we're just using a QR code service, but it's a QR code for this, a web form that's pre-populated with an email. So if I actually go to this web form, there you go. It's got my stuff pre-populated. So this is why it is an advanced thing. We are leveraging the ability to pre-populate a web form, and then we're going to take that link with my information in it and turn it into a QR code dynamically. So for example, because we're using old Keap, Infusionsoft, inf_field_ first name equals Paul, which this, by the way, this is just one key value pair in the URL. I can add another key value pair of the last name, and that's going to pre-populate the last names. Check this out. This URL pre-populates my information. Let's pretend this is a web form that lets me check in, do an event. Is this making sense, Justin? You following along?
Yep, this looks familiar to me.
All right, cool. So we can make a link that pre-populates information. Now, because it's a CRM, this information can actually be emerged. So in the real world, the actual link, let's just say I put a link to it. The actual link would be something like contact.email. This is now going to merge in my email as the value for the key of in-field email. And then we're going to do contact first name. And then the last name is contact last name. Now, obviously, whatever CRM you're using is different, okay? The merge field values are different. All this kind of stuff is different. I'm going to copy this because I believe that now it's going to throw an error. Oh, no, look at that. It did it. Cool. So if I were to send a link in a Keap email that pointed to this, it's going to take me here. So now we're going one layer outside of that. We're going to go ahead and say, okay, here's the link. I want to go ahead and create a QR code for this. All right, so watch how this gobbledygook changes. Is different, right? If I were to scan this, that would take me to this thing. All right. Here's where it gets stupid and tricky. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This URL, if you were to put this as an image source in an email, it might error. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down one piece of content at a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the dynamic content feature of Keap. So if you're on the old school Infusionsoft style version, marketing, dynamic content. If you're on the new version with the menu on the left, it should still be under marketing, right? So here's what we're going to do. If we go to Paul Sokol, I'm going to I have a bunch of people in my stuff. If I preview this, okay, these merge fields don't work because this is the old way to do stuff. I'm going to keep this here. What I'm going to do, and this is where we're going to break this down one at a time. So this is the, in this case, the free QR code generator coming from Keap. Keap.com. L equals 1, don't know what that means. S equals 8, don't know what that means. D equals, this is the URL that's going to go to. Okay? It needs to go to this URL. That's how we pre-populate. Okay. So if we're using dynamic content, what we're going to do is we're going to delete this old merge field, and we're going to go say select category, contact of email. Throw it in here. Okay. Now if I preview this for me, am I going to dox my own email address? Yeah, there you go. I did. Fine. Whatever. That's my username across the internet, period. So now we'll do the same thing for the first and the last name. I'm going to delete this. We're going to say first name, and then we're going to say this for the last name. Okay. So now this link is actually my unique, distinct link to fill out this form for this QR code. I'm going to copy this, let's open this, and we'll use this existing. Actually, we'll keep this one open. There you go. Check this out. If you were to scan this, it's going to take you to this URL, which I guess, let's go look at this URL. Pre-populates my info. It didn't pre-populate my name. Did I not put the name in there? I missed that. I guess I didn't. This is why we do this stuff live, folks. First name equals, I guess it didn't actually click add to content editor. Okay. This is the full URL. If I go to this URL, it's going to pre-populate my stuff. All right. If I go to this URL, it's going to take me to the QR code for this. You were to scan this, hold on. There you go. If you were to scan this, that would take us to that same form you're looking at. What we're running into problems with is, what if my name is like Mary Sue? Or if, my last name is like Sokol Singleton. All right? That's not necessarily going to work on a URL because spaces aren't a real thing. So for example, if I said my first name was Paul Lewis Sokol Singleton, let's pre-populate this form by itself. It does work, but you'll notice these %20s. This is known as URL encoding. because the space doesn't actually exist. So if I were to go ahead and take a QR code with spaces in it, it's going to break. It doesn't look different, but it's subtly different. And if I were to go ahead and grab my phone, let me actually put my money where my mouth is. Let's go ahead and see if this looks different. Does it not populate my name? Does it not populate my last name or my email? Let's figure this out. So, whoop, I go here, and there you go. So you can't really see it, but my first name and last name aren't on there. There you go. So it's broken. I need to URL encode my name so that way it actually comes through correctly. So now this is where we get super advanced. All right, Justin, you hanging on? You good? All right, cool. So let's go look at something else. I'm going to go ahead and say email 1, and we're going to use a modifier. We're going to URL encode this. So notice this. It's contact email address, which is the same merge we've got here, but then we have the pipe symbol of URL encode. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put the word break in here. Check this out. This is the URL encoded version. Instead of the @ symbol, it's the %40, which is the @ symbol in URL encoding. So if we want to do this thing correctly, we need to URL encode my name, my email, and my first name and last name in this specific case. I missed the encode. Did I not copy the whole thing? Obviously I didn't. So URL encode my email address. I'll actually preview it once here. So look at this. Now it's this %40 at Gmail. Okay. If I go to this URL, because remember the whole point is I'm scanning a QR code, pre-populates my stuff, I can go to it. If I go to this form now, it still loads my stuff correctly, even though I had the URL encoded version, right? So then now let's go do this with the rest of my stuff. I'm going to say first name, URL encode, which technically, where's the pipe symbol? Which is shift / URL encode. I'm just going to copy that. URL encode my first name, URL encode my last name. Again, if I'm Mary Sue or like Smith Johansson, something like that. Now, this correctly populates my info. And if I use the QR code, I go now, remember, what's the data D for this QR code? It's this website, which is URL encoded. If I go here now if I scan this, put my money where my mouth is, but this should now populate both my first name and my last name in addition to my email. And I guess what's the takeaway from all this? You can make a dynamic QR code, but it's got to be URL encoded. Otherwise, it's going to break. So let's picture this. Here we go. And it's still. Why is it cutting it off? Oh, here's why it's cutting it off. This is what we ran into. This is why I want to do this whole thing today, Justin. The @ sign itself needs to be URL encoded. And so does the equal sign. So we're going to figure this out. So I'm going to go say URL encode this part of it and nothing else. All right, we're going to do break 2. Okay, double square this. We're going to put it in quotes because I need this exact string, and then pipe symbol URL underscore encode, and then closing this. So this is now what it looks like. Here we are in field email. This, though, what's up here, this is actually a little too much. We only need to encode the question mark and this here. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually only URL encode this piece of it. Because the whole slash, this is accurate. This is acceptable syntax for a URL. I don't want these slashes to be URL encoded. What I need to be URL encoded is the question mark and the equals. So now if we preview it, there you go. Here's this in field email, blah, blah, blah. And then just for funsies, I'm just going to say, again, same thing. You know, this guy at accessable.me. Now when I go here, it throws an error because I'm super cool. That's why we're testing this. We don't need to encode the question marks. We need to go ahead and only encode the field email. We might actually only, now that I think about it, we only need to encode this equal sign. So let's test this out. So here it is. In field email equals blah, blah, blah. So I'll paste it in. This guy at me. And this should be an equal sign. So I guess it only works if it is an equal sign. Okay, that's the difference. So I'm wet baby horsing it through it, everybody. We're doing great. So technically, we only need to URL encode the email address, which I'm going to add right here. So if I preview it, what did we run into an error? Oh, because I had 2 double squares in there. Okay. And then this also doesn't need to be here. Okay. Here it is. So really, only the data needs to be URL encoded. Apparently, 2540@gmail is a space. Let's go open this and see what it looks like. And that's also stupid. What did I miss? This might just have to be a bust, and we'll do a personal conversation. Oh, I URL encoded it twice. That's why it's not working. Okay. Which I didn't even know you could URL encode twice. Okay. There you go. % equals 40. Now if I go to here, it pre-populates. So now if I go to, if I use this as my QR code generator for the D equals, actually, we'll do it up here in the main one. No, let's do it down here. Now it's going to work. This QR code is unique. When I click it or scan it, it's going to go to this, except without the first and last name. So now we're going to go ahead and, there you go, this one. We're synthesizing it one at a time. So when we're using dynamic code, y'all, this is how you should do it. Like really, you just kind of need one at a time. So using the same idea, we're going to say first name, URL encode, add it here. Okay. Now when I preview it, here it is. Well, let's first double check that this pre-populates correctly, which it should. Go here, first name, no last name. Great. When I go to this QR code, I'm going to Scan it. Scan it. Here you go. It's going to work. And then I'm still missing something. What am I missing? This may be a bust today because it's not giving me anything. It also may be a display issue. But this URL should be it. And then let's do it one more time for the last name. So we know that inf field last name equals my URL encoded last name. Throw it in here. Let's preview it. Cool. If I go to this, okay, pre-populates all my stuff. So I guess what's the problem with this? Why does the QR code itself, it actually cuts off just after the email address? We might need to URL encode this section. So remember how we could do nested URL encodes? Let's actually see if that's the case. I'm going to go, I'm actually going to snag this. I'm going to open a bracket, say that this is what's up, and then close the bracket again. So it should now URL encode the URL encode, and it broke. I think that's actually because we got to put it in quotes. Actually, every one of these probably needs to be in quotes. It's probably going to throw a parser error, which it did. Okay. But now if we do this in quotes, still going to throw a parser error because we have a last name. Okay. And maybe I'm going to look real stupid in a moment, but this should now correctly go, and it doesn't. So I'm missing something, y'all. I may have to.
Is it because you have the URL encode twice right after another again?
Well, that's kind of the issue that we're running into. Can I undo all this? Yeah, let's undo all this. Okay. So this works. If I go to this, it pre-populates everything I got going on.
Okay.
But as far as the QR code stops after my email address. So what we might need to do is URL encode the @ symbol and the equal symbol, which actually, you know what? We can just hard code this into that. We don't need to do any of the fanciness. So what is the URL encode question mark %3f. So let's look at this. So question mark 3f. Now if we run this, again, this URL still needs to work. Craps out. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a bust and I'm missing something. Because this works. What doesn't work is putting this whole thing into a, because again, this works. Throw it into here, it pre-populates, but I can't throw it into a QR code. So I wonder if I can just quote this whole thing in URL encode, and if not, I'm going to end this because I'm just making myself look foolish, and I'm okay with that. You know, that's fine. So quote, hold on, quote now URL encode. I got to put the square brackets in front of this. And hey, look at that. Okay, so now, does this URL work? Now it still has URL encoded in it. All right, there's something I'm missing. This is a bad Nights of Automation, but if anything, it proves that this stuff's really hard. But the second we figure it out, it's going to be amazing. So I'm going to just say no for now. Justin, before we end, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you're learning a bunch of stuff. So,
there's a reason why I don't code. That's the first takeaway.
Yeah. Don't code. Coding sucks and is terrible. And yeah, because this QR code doesn't.
It also kind of proves, even with like an automation guideline, to generate something that we really take for granted pretty much is a simple QR code, and anyone can technically generate one, but to make one so specific is a whole other kind of ballgame.
Sure is. Absolutely. And yeah. So anyway, I've doxed myself. There's my email, and I have failed to do a QR code, and that's okay. No harm, no foul. We're going to figure this out. I'm committed to figuring this out. So we'll get it. And until then,
we might be able to figure out a solve on a random video we might end up being able to put together. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We're going to get this. In fact, because we do these automation masterminds on the second and fourth Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to have a solution for this next time. And I'm going to share what the solution is. And it's probably something stupid. Because that's always how it is. It's always just like, you forgot to do a semicolon after this line of code or something, right? So,
yep.
Anyway, that's what we're going to do. Thank you for watching. And whatever questions you have or roasts that you've got for me, throw it in the comments. And we'll see you next time, everybody.